Hey everyone, Captain Nathaniel Lemmon here, FloridaSightFishing.com, and I'm here to bring you my February 2025 report and talk to you a little bit about what we've been catching the last couple months, and give you an idea what's to come over the next couple months as we get further into the spring. So to get off to start us, man, talk about a great year for redfish numbers. This has probably easily been best numbers I've seen in about 10 years. You know, in all these reports I throw up some pictures, so I'm going to start tossing some pictures up here now of some clients that have been out with me. Here's one that we did. This guy, he was looking for a trip to do redfish on a fly rod, and he just wanted to catch one as his bucket list item, and we made it happen. He actually got a few bites that day. Here's some of my clients that he's been fishing with me about every month, and he brought his wife out for a trip, and man, we had a freaking phenomenal day, hitting multiple schools and catching doubles like this. Another clients, they were down from Michigan. They ended up with this fish here, and then this is one of my clients here that comes down every year for the races. We had a foggy morning, but man, we caught the heck out of redfish that day. So it's a lot of what you're seeing here in these pictures is lots of sight casting, lots of some doubles. We had some really big schools of fish this winter, hundreds of fish, not just groups of 30 or 40, but we had multiple schools that had well over 200 fish that we could pick through. So the water's still really clear. We're still doing lots of sight casting, and it's going to really stay that way over the next couple months. The only thing that's really going to change for us is the schools are going to break apart more, and we won't have these groups of hundreds of fish anymore. We'll have smaller pods of like 10, 15, 20. But as the water gets low and condenses them all into certain areas, that's what we'll still find some bigger schools, but we're kind of getting out of the time of the year where we're going to see those big schools of 300, 400, 500 fish at a time. So here's a couple more pictures. This one's actually my mom. She comes down to Snowbird for the winter, and she wanted to get out one day, and so we went out and we ran into a school of fish, and she was catching them on the bait and I was catching them on the fly rod. It was about as good a day as you can imagine. Some other clients here that they ended up with this double. It was a trying day, but we actually got into them pretty good, and then the bite kind of ended for us as the day went on. Here's one more picture of another double here. So as you can see, lots of redfish, and that's really going to be our standard. That's our standard staple fish. We catch them year round. So next up, let's talk about the black drum, because that's been our other. We've really been doing redfish or black drum every day because there's a lot of schools of black drum around this winter. Got 4 pictures here for you. Some people, they're all doubles, because when you get into the right school of drum and there's 250 or 300 of them, you put a shrimp in there and we're catching them pretty fast. So we'll tend to catch 8, 10, 12 of them and then move on to something different. But this is some of my clients that they've actually been fishing with me for several years now, a brother and sister, and we always have a good time together, and they came out and we ended up with this double here. And we've had some cold weather. You're going to see in some of these pictures where it's been really cold. We had a couple cold, windy days, and we caught some redfish first and then ended up on these schools of black drum here. So in addition to redfish and black drum are going to be really pretty much available all the way into March, April, and then I don't tend to fish them much after that. They tend to scatter and get in smaller groups, and we spend more of our time catching redfish and snook and trout that time of year. So now that I've talked about redfish and black drum, talk a little bit about snook. We had a pretty harsh, kind of cold winter. Didn't have extreme temperature drops, but we did have duration cold where it was in the 50s for a week. And anytime that we get our water down into the upper 40s, that usually signifies some death. So we did have a fish kill, but it actually didn't seem like it was that many snook or tarpon that died in this. Redfish and drum were fine, but we did have lots of jacks and ladyfish and pompano that were kind of cold weather killed off. But the snook population looks like it, for the most part, made it through, especially down here in Mosquito Lagoon area. So as things warm up, they're going to be getting a lot more active over these next couple months. They're going to be coming out of the holes that they spent all winter, and they're going to be moving out into deeper shoreline where there's lots of structure and moving water. And we should be getting into the time here where the sizes are going to go from little ones that are like about that big up to, we're going to start getting into the mid upper 20s, over 30-inch range. April tends to be a really good month for me to catch big snook, and I'm sure, depending on the weather, if we have a normal spring and most of them survived, and we should be having a good couple months coming up here. In addition to redfish, black drum, and snook, the other option for us this time of year is trout. Not seeing a whole lot of big trout this year, which is kind of disappointing because we do have a great big trout fishery. But this year the numbers of trout are just kind of the big ones. We can find smaller ones, no problems. We find them up to 23, 24 inches, but seeing the ones that are put 28 to 30 plus inches, just not seeing a whole lot of them this year. Seeing some, flats that have maybe a couple, but it's kind of hard getting motivated to sit and wait for a bite from two fish that might be on the flat. That should get better as we get later into the spring. May, June, July, especially into August now tends to be the time of the year where we catch the most trout, when we can get 20 or so a day. This time of the year is usually about looking for big ones, and if we're not doing that, then we typically just move on to something else, because we can catch the size trout that I'm seeing. We catch them by the dozens here in a couple months, so there's not a lot of focus to put on those right now. Still a little bit too early for tarpon. It's pretty cold. They are not really active this time of year. They'll start getting a lot more active as we get into end of April and May. But those are our 5 species, and that tends to be what we're going to be fishing from now all the way as we get into May. As I said, we're in the spring transition now, but there's not a whole lot of change versus what we do from day to day, and there won't really be until we get about another month. As we get into late March and early April, we'll start to fish a little bit different areas and do a little bit different things than what we've been doing now. But from now and from what we did last month, this month, and into March, it is pretty much fishing the flats every day. The water's crystal clear. Sight fishing's really good, so we're taking advantage of that until the water's level comes up, things get a little bit dirty, and we start heading to the deeper water to fish for bigger fish the rest of the summer. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what we're doing. The next thing to talk to you about is the calendar, because this is a super busy time of the year. We are smack dab in the middle of the busy season, so I have 1 day left open for March. Otherwise that's full. I have about 4 or 5 days maybe still left open for April, and I've got about 8 days left open for May. So as you can see, we are smack dab in the middle of spring break season right now, so it'll stay super busy until we get into May, and then it gets even busier as we start to welcome all the summer vacationers. So moral of the story is, don't wait till the last minute to try and schedule with me. It's not going to happen. You might get lucky, maybe I'll have a day open, but chances are it's going to be well booked in advance, because most people are planning out their summer and spring break trips well in advance. So make sure you definitely get with me early if you want to get on the calendar. Other than that, hope you have a good one. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel. I do these once a month for you and try and talk to you a little bit about what we're doing. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit me up with a phone call, 386-212-4931. Visit my website, floridasightfishing.com, and let's get out here and you spend a day with me on this boat and we'll make it happen. Like I said, this is some of the best numbers of fish we've seen in a while, so take advantage of it. All right? Tight lines. Bye-bye.